Hello everyone, and welcome back to the PEX News channel. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for fact-based analysis and sharp coverage of today's biggest global stories. French President Emmanuel Macron has given a detailed account of the high-level White House summit that took place on August 18th. The meeting brought together Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, U.S. President Donald Trump, and several European leaders, all gathered to address one of the most pressing issues of our time, the war in Ukraine and the possibility of peace. Macron began by emphasizing that this meeting was not just another diplomatic formality, it was a turning point. According to him, three major objectives guided the talks. First, all leaders agreed on the urgent need for peace. Second, they recognized the moral and humanitarian imperative of halting the violence. And third, they reached consensus that any peace deal must include robust, long-term security guarantees to protect Ukraine and safeguard European stability. He explained that from the very beginning of the war, European leaders have sought to stop the bloodshed. Whether it is called a ceasefire, a truce, or an armistice, the immediate goal is the same: end the daily killing of civilians and create conditions where meaningful negotiations can take place. But Macron was also clear: peace without security guarantees is no peace at all. He reminded that past examples, like Georgia in 2008 and Crimea in 2014, prove that Russia will not respect agreements unless a firm deterrence mechanism is in place. That is why the coalition of willing nations, now expanded to include 30 countries and co-chaired by France and the UK, is working closely with the United States to design these guarantees. From tomorrow onward, Macron said, the coalition will begin concrete planning on who provides what, whether weapons, training, or defense systems, to ensure Ukraine is never left vulnerable again. Another outcome of the talks was the agreement to organize direct negotiations. First, a bilateral meeting between Zelenskyy and Putin is to be arranged. This would be followed by a trilateral session that would also include Trump, and eventually a broader multilateral summit involving Europe, Turkey, and possibly others. Macron stressed that this wider format is essential, because the issue is not only Ukraine's security, but the security of the entire European continent. The conversation also touched on Trump's comment, caught on a hot mic, that Putin wants to make a deal with me. Macron's response was cautious but pragmatic. If such a deal can deliver lasting peace while preserving Ukraine's sovereignty, then it would be welcome news. But Macron warned against any settlement that would weaken Ukraine or Europe. A peace deal, he insisted, must not only stop the current war but also ensure that Ukraine can defend itself from future attacks and that Europeans can live in stability. On the question of a ceasefire, Macron did not mince words. He said a truce is absolutely necessary. Without stopping Russian strikes, Ukraine cannot engage in credible negotiations. He pointed out that Russia launched attacks on civilians even as leaders were meeting in Washington. In his view, this proves why pressure must remain high on Moscow. If Putin continues to refuse a ceasefire or rejects negotiations, Macron argued that sanctions must be escalated, both primary and secondary, to force compliance. Security guarantees formed a large part of Macron's discussion. He outlined a two-pillar approach. The first pillar is a strong and modern Ukrainian army, well-trained, well-equipped, and capable of deterring future aggression. This means no limits on soldiers, ammunition, or advanced systems, such as air defense, drones, and modern aircraft. The second pillar involves international commitments from coalition members. While Macron stressed that Europe does not want foreign boots on the ground, he insisted that regular joint operations, whether in the air, at sea, or on land, must send a clear strategic signal to Moscow. If Ukraine is attacked again, the coalition will respond. The French president also rejected the idea of territorial concessions. Reports that Russia seeks to keep the Donbas region or permanently hold onto occupied areas, he said, cannot form the basis of peace. Accepting land grabs would destroy international law and undermine credibility in other global hotspots like Africa or Taiwan. For Macron, the principle of sovereignty is non-negotiable. Only Ukraine and its people can decide their territorial future, not outside powers. When asked about optimism, Macron struck a careful balance. He acknowledged Trump's confidence that a deal with Putin might be possible. If true, Macron said, that would be positive. But based on his own assessment, Putin does not appear genuinely ready for peace. For now, Macron believes unity among allies and continued pressure on Russia remain the keys to any breakthrough. He closed by underscoring why this conflict matters far beyond Ukraine's borders. It is about the security of Europe, the credibility of international law, and the global order itself. If the world allows borders to be redrawn by force, Macron warned, then no nation will be safe from similar violations. That is why he insists on a just, lasting peace, one built on strong guarantees and collective commitment. So, what's your take? Drop a comment below.